I am not concerned over the Minnesota Vikings loss against the Detroit Lions. And the reason why is because every team is going to lose a game in the NFL. No team is going to go undefeated this season. Well, maybe the Chiefs, they're 6-0. But even the Chiefs are going to lay a stinker at some point this season and lose a game. The Minnesota Vikings lost a very competitive home game against the Detroit Lions, who are one of the top favorites to reach the Super Bowl in the NFC. Stuff like this happens. However, this can lead to a concerning moment for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not concerned yet, but this next game has a lot of weight and heaviness to it because it's a short week. They go to Los Angeles and face off against a Rams team that gets Cooper cut back, and they are going to be very hungry for another victory because they're 2-4. The Seattle Seahawks are 4-3. You win that game, you're a game out of first place. The Los Angeles Rams, despite starting 1-4, are still playing for something in the regular season because their division stinks. So the Los Angeles Rams are going to be very hungry for a victory over the Minnesota Vikings, and they get their top receiver back against the Minnesota Vikings, whose secondary struggled against the Detroit Lions. Also, the Los Angeles Rams have an offensive schemer like Ben Johnson and Sean McVay against the Minnesota Vikings. Now it sounds like I'm doing a preview podcast against the Rams, but I am not doing a preview podcast yet. That will come on Wednesday or Thursday of this week. But what I am saying is that the Minnesota Vikings are now in adversity. And this is the message in the Minnesota Vikings locker room after this loss. You can't lose 2 in a row. You need to respond and beat the Los Angeles Rams to advance to 6-1. Because if you lose 2 in a row, well, then the questions start circulating. Then the players start doubting the message. Then players might start questioning Sam Darnold's ability as quarterback one to lead the Minnesota Vikings to the playoffs. So now that the Minnesota Vikings have their first test of adversity, they must win this second game. I'm not concerned with the loss against the Lions. However, I am concerned with potentially 2 losses in a row that starts with the Lions and then goes to the Rams. Because as great as Sam Darnold has been through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, he is still Sam Darnold. He went 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions through the first, 4 weeks of the season. He was everyone's MVP. Well, he throws 0 touchdowns against the Jets, 1 touchdown against the Detroit Lions, and who knows what could happen in the future. All I know is that I am not banking my entire trust on Sam Darnold being a top 10 quarterback for the rest of the season. I'm not trusting that Sam Darnold is just going to be locked in and a top quarterback in the league every week because of his history and because of who Sam Darnold is. And not even because of his history, but because of what we see from Sam Darnold week in and week out. He looks like a very good quarterback. He looks like a very capable quarterback of winning games. But then there's each game a moment where it's like, what was that? His throw to Jordan Addison that got picked up as the Vikings were driving down the field. That could have been the difference in winning and losing that game. You kick a field goal, that's 3 points. Vikings lose by 2. Who knows what could have happened? The ball he threw in the dirt in the 2-point conversion, I don't know if he was open or not, but didn't give him any chance to catch it. Hit the dirt. Wasn't even close. So you see moments from Sam Darnold that bring up his history again every week for the Vikings. Every quarterback's going to make questionable throws, but when Sam Darnold makes a questionable throw, you start doubting a lot quicker than if Patrick Mahomes makes a bad throw, because this is Sam Darnold's history. This is what he's been in the NFL throughout his 5-6 year career. So this is a big game for the Vikings, for the team, and for the standings. Vikings are now second in the division after they lost one game. Lions are first. The Packers are 5-2. They're right there. Or 4-2 or 5, whatever the Packers are. Packers are right there, though. They just beat the Texans on the last-second field goal. And the Chicago Bears, right there as well. What are the Packers? 5-2, 4-2? 5-2, that's what I thought. Bears are 4-2. If the Vikings have a little hiccup in the middle of the season, well, then you're looking at last place in the NFC North very quickly. So this is a big challenge for the Minnesota Vikings ahead, because you need to respond to adversity with a win. You can't lose 2 in a row. And I guarantee you that is the message inside the Minnesota Vikings locker room by head coach Kevin O'Connell. You need to respond to adversity. We were never going to go 20-0. You need to respond to adversity. You know, every time I see a score in the NHL or football, whether it's a goal or a touchdown, my first thought goes to, well, if you wanted to win the game, you needed to score a goal anyways. Or if you wanted to win the game, you needed to score a touchdown anyways. So 7-0, 1-0, a deficit like that is not a big deal. You need to score to have a chance to win. So if you can't score, you're not going to win. So this is that deficit for the Minnesota Vikings. They lost one game. You're going to lose the game anyways. You're not going to go undefeated. But how do you respond after that? You've got to respond. And this is a test. This is a big test for the Minnesota Vikings coming up shortly on Thursday night.